Active empathy, the bridge to resilient digital communities. Let's be honest with ourselves about what we actually do when we step behind the screen to lead. We are taught almost systematically to believe that our value as community managers, moderators, and facilitators is directly tied to what we know. We buy into the myth that our worth is measured by our speed, how quickly we can close a support ticket, how efficiently we can enforce a rule, or how many links to resources we can drop into a thread to make a problem go away. We wear our expertise like a suit of armor. We walk into digital spaces carrying the heavy, distant persona of the all-knowing expert, and we think, in our quiet moments of pride, that this authority is what keeps our communities stable. But it is a lie. And deep down, if you have run an online space for more than a month, you already know it is a lie. In our rush to provide instant, polished certainty in a text-only world of infinite noise, we are not building communities. We are throwing sand directly into the gears of human connection. We are ignoring the actual, breathing human being who is typing on the other side of that cold screen. Today, we are going to talk about a quiet, radical, and decisive internal movement that changes everything. It is the deliberate, courageous release of the expert identity. It is the transition from a distant, analytical thread resolver to a peer-level companion who stands beside people in their mess. Let's look at the blueprint of how we traditionally try to hold these spaces together. We must understand the dynamic of the bridge versus the towers of control. On either side of our digital architecture, we have what we traditionally rely on. These rigid towers of structural stability, expert authority on one side, technical control on the other. These represent the conventional, comfortable tools we use to manage digital forums. We write guidelines, we build dashboards, we establish hierarchies, but the actual system integrity, the singular element that prevents these massive, rigid towers from collapsing outward into the abyss, is not more rules. It is not a faster response time. It is not a smarter moderation bot. It is the human connection. It is the bridge. Active empathy is not a soft, optional addition to your facilitation toolkit. It is not a nice-to-have warm-up exercise that you run before the real work begins. It is the literal, load-bearing foundation upon which all digital community stability is constructed. When we drop the Expert Act online, we are not abandoning our responsibility to lead. We are doing something far more difficult and far more strategic. We are constructing the only foundation capable of holding the absolute weight of a real human community in a digital world. But what happens when we refuse to build this bridge? What happens when we try to bypass the human element entirely? What happens is that we build a wobbly foundation. We try to fix deeply relational, human challenges with platform mechanics. We see a community in distress, or we see conflict rising, and our immediate instinct as experts is to stack more heavy blocks on top of a fractured base. We implement complex posting templates, we program automated moderation bots to flag words, we roll out stricter, more punitive rules, we build these beautiful, highly logical, and intellectually satisfying structures. We look at our platform and say, look how organized we are. But those heavy structures are sitting on quicksand. If the base below is cracked, if it is built on unaddressed emotional isolation, on unvoiced anxiety, and on deep personal distress, the entire community space, no matter how technologically advanced, will inevitably collapse under its own weight. Hear this clearly. Skipping the hard work of human connection to jump directly into platform logistics does not solve distress. It does not cure anxiety. It only spreads stress around. You cannot build strong systems on emotional cracks. So, how do we diagnose these cracks before the entire structure collapses? We have to train our eyes to read the silent warning signs of a broken foundation online. They do not show up as red errors on your developer dashboard. They show up directly in the text. There are three primary indicators that your digital space is building on quicksand. The first indicator is shallow conversations. This is when your community members are posting regularly, but everyone absolutely refuses to talk about the real issues. The text remains strictly polite, superficial, and highly guarded. It reads like a corporate press release. People are sharing updates, but they are hiding themselves. The second indicator is sanitized feedback. When you, as the moderator, ask for input, or you roll out a community survey, members give you fake, highly sanitized answers. They tell you exactly what they think you want to hear because they want to avoid exposure and judgment. They do not trust that their raw, messy truths are safe with you. And the third, most exhausting indicator is endless thread escalations. This is the classic symptom of a failed moderator response system. You find yourself playing digital whack-a-mole. The exact same conflicts, the exact same misunderstandings, and the same defensive flare-ups keep happening over and over again, thread after thread, week after week. Why? Because you are policing the text while completely ignoring the human root causes. You are treating the words on the screen as a technical violation to be corrected, rather than a human signal to be heard. When the psychological foundation of trust is broken, your platform features become completely useless. You can have the most advanced forum software in the world, but if your users are terrified of being judged, they will remain silent. We must stop managing the thread, and we must start repairing the bridge. The cracks form because of what we call the all-knowing moderator effect. The very moment you walk into a text thread carrying the expert persona, you instantly trigger a toxic, silent shift in the community's dynamics. You think you are being helpful by sharing your knowledge, but by standing above your participants as an evaluator, an analyst, or a judge, the entire digital environment changes. It shifts from an environment of mutual sharing to one of constant evaluation. This analytical hierarchy absolutely kills vulnerability and safety. It smothers it in the cradle. Why? Because human beings will never type their raw struggles, their deep doubts, or their creative, untested, half-baked ideas into a forum if they believe they are going to be graded, corrected, or judged by an expert standing on a pedestal. Your community's capacity to connect with one another is strictly mathematically limited by how safe the participants feel. If the ceiling of safety is low, the depth of connection will be shallow. To break this cycle and restore trust online, we have to undergo a massive, uncomfortable internal pivot. We have to completely redefine how we show up behind the keyboard. Let us compare the two stances side by side. On one hand, we have the distant moderator, whose goal is to fix or resolve the thread as fast as possible. They want the ticket closed. On the other hand, we have the peer-level companion, whose goal is to help the writer feel deeply, truly understood. The expert stands above, analyzing the post from a safe, detached distance. The companion stands beside, offering consistent, level, and unhurried presence. The distant moderator is constantly scanning the text, looking for what is wrong, what is inaccurate, or what violates the rules. The companion is focused on showing up consistently and validating the human being behind the words. The expert asks, what is broken in this post? How do I fix it? The companion asks, what is this person actually experiencing behind their typed words? The distant moderator dissects issues like an analyst, which ultimately breeds user isolation and drives them further into their shells. The peer-level companion joins the user in mutual support, and the cold, digital hierarchy completely disappears. This is not a communication trick, this is not a clever moderation hack, or a passive-aggressive copywriting technique. This is a fundamental, existential shift in how you see your role behind the screen. You are transitioning from a thread resolver to a peer-level companion. You are stepping down from the tower to walk on the bridge. And when we fail to make this pivot, our online participants pay the price. They are forced to carry heavy, invisible, cognitive, and emotional burdens. These are the 4 subterranean boulders that silently silence our digital spaces, crushing the life out of our forums. The first is lurker fear. This is the paralyzing feeling of being viewed as a problem, a support ticket, or a clinical case study. It is what drives people into complete silence or forces them to write fake, sanitized comments. They are terrified of being publicly evaluated by you, the expert. So, they watch from the shadows, never contributing their true value. The second is text-based shame. When a participant musters the courage to share something real, and their emotional reality is completely ignored or processed like a cold support ticket, they experience a deep, quiet withdrawal. They might type empty agreements to keep the peace, but they will offer absolutely zero real vulnerability from that moment forward. You have taught them that their feelings do not belong here. The third is performance exhaustion. This is the pure cognitive fatigue of constantly trying to type the perfect, polished, and intellectually impressive response. It is the anxiety of drafting and redrafting a post, trying to prove one's worth to an evaluating expert who is hovering over the thread. It makes participation feel like work, rather than connection. And the fourth is the fear of being misread. This is the persistent, underlying dread of being misunderstood in a text-only medium where vocal tone, warmth of breath, and facial expressions are completely absent. People are terrified that their sarcasm will be taken as anger, or their sadness as weakness. Our strategy to locate, address, and remove these massive weights is what we call empathy amber. using heart language to validate written emotions before we ever dare to suggest next steps. How do we operationalize this? How do we build this filter into our everyday typing? We use the heart language funnel. When a community member types a post in deep distress, they do not hand you a neat, organized summary of their feelings. Instead, they dump a massive, overwhelming wall of noise onto the screen. This noise is made of nitty-gritty logistical details, administrative venting, complaints about software, timelines, and defensive tangents. The expert moderator looks at this funnel and immediately tries to address the logistics. They answer the software complaint, they correct the timeline, they argue with the venting, they address the noise, and they completely miss the signal. But the peer-level companion uses active empathy as a strategic filter. We deliberately look past the logistics. We filter out the text-based noise to isolate the singular core emotion hiding underneath, whether that is shame, exhaustion, or fear. Heart language does not ignore the facts of the post, but it strategically targets the core human emotion first. We know, as a fundamental rule of human psychology, that until a writer feels deeply seen, they cannot process options or advice clearly. You cannot solve a problem for someone whose nervous system is still in fight or flight mode behind their keyboard. But in doing this, we must avoid a very common trap. We must understand the critical boundary between reflecting and interpreting. There is a highly critical psychological distinction we must make in our written replies: the difference between reflecting and interpreting. Interpreting is highly invasive. This is when a moderator writes, "Let me tell you why you are posting this," or "It seems to me that your real issue is your lack of boundaries." You are using clinical, analytical text to dissect their psyche like a specimen in a lab. This triggers instant, deep defensiveness because it makes the writer feel analyzed, not understood. It sets you up as the superior psychologist and them as the broken patient. It builds a massive wall. Reflecting, on the other hand, is comforting. This is when a companion acts as a clean, clear, and unblemished mirror in their reply. The companion types, "I see you are feeling this, and that is completely okay." Our goal is not to explain the person to themselves. Our goal is to honestly and gently reflect what they are currently experiencing without judging them, without dissecting their motives, and without trying to explain their feelings away. Written reflection builds a bridge. Written interpretation builds a wall. Let's break down the exact three-step mechanics of how we execute this mirroring protocol in our daily online text. Step 1 is to read for feelings. When you open a post, force yourself to temporarily look past the logistics, the timelines, the software complaints, and the administrative venting. Focus entirely on the underlying emotional reality of what they are typing. Ask yourself, what does it feel like to be them right now? Step 2 is to repeat the feeling back. Do not try to be overly clinical, fancy, or psychotherapeutic. Use simple, honest, and direct words in your typed reply to echo their core emotion. If they are grieving, use the word grief. If they are exhausted, tell them you hear their exhaustion. Mirror their heart, not just their syntax. And step 3, the hardest step for any online guide, is to hold back on advice. You must actively, consciously resist the urge to type immediate solutions, paste help articles, or offer quick tips. Introduce absolutely 0 action items, 0 instructions, and 0 links until you have established emotional resonance in the thread. If you jump to advice before establishing resonance, you are building on quicksand. Let us look at how this plays out in the real world through the primary case study from the Catalyst manual. Imagine a participant who posts in your community chat channel, typing in deep, raw distress. "I've tried every wellness app and every weekend retreat, and I still feel like I'm failing my family because I can't switch off." This is a classic cry for connection. Now, let's look at the 2 paths we can take. First, let's look at the path of the expert moderator. The expert reads this post and immediately focuses on the details: the wellness apps, the retreats, and the schedule. They see a technical problem to be solved with better information. They type a reply: "Have you tried this new scheduling tool? Or maybe I can link you to a breathing exercise to help you wind down after work." What is the impact of that reply? It completely implies that their deep, existential pain is just a scheduling error. It tells them, you are failing because you haven't used the right tool yet. The result? It ramps up their shame, completely ignores their core distress, and hits a complete dead end in the thread. The user will likely reply with a polite, "Thanks," but they will never share their heart in your space again. Now, look at the path of the companion facilitator. The companion completely ignores the wellness apps. They ignore the retreats. They speak straight to the human pain hiding behind the text. They reply, "It sounds like you feel a deep sense of grief because your career is stealing the version of you that your family deserves. Look at the difference. The companion didn't offer a link, they didn't offer a solution, they offered presence." The impact? It validates their direct human experience. It says, "I see you, and you are not crazy." The result? It builds immediate trust, establishes profound safety, and constructs the bridge right there in the middle of the thread. When we use this mirroring protocol, we are not just typing nice comments. We are strategically unlocking the psychological barriers that keep our digital spaces silent. Look at what happens to a community when these heavy weights are systematically removed. When shame melts, our participants stop hiding behind sanitized, fake, and polite text. They stop pretending to be okay, and they finally begin to share their genuine struggles and honest feedback. When confusion lifts and their raw emotions are named and validated, they move from passive, fearful lurking into active, deep, and lasting commitment within the community. When exhaustion lifts, our users stop wasting their precious cognitive and emotional energy trying to draft the perfect response to impress an evaluating leader. They can finally show up as their real, authentic, and beautifully messy selves. And when fear fades, the dread of being misread or judged disappears entirely. Community members finally trust that they will be stood beside as equals. This is the exact moment that allows deep, meaningful, and truly transformative text-based connection to happen. None of this happens overnight. It follows a strict sequential anatomy. Trust is not built by publishing a grand announcement, and it is certainly not built by posting a platform-wide code of conduct on your landing page. Trust has a strict, structural anatomy that progresses sequentially. It begins in the microphase. This happens in a single, isolated text interaction. In a single reply, a facilitator chooses emotional resonance over a quick, easy logistical fix. They choose the companion stance over the expert stance. As these micro moments accumulate, we enter the in-between phase. A new atmosphere begins to emerge across the entire thread. People look around and realize that this space feels different. They begin to feel seen as human beings, not just managed as usernames, platform metrics, or support tickets. Finally, we reach the macro phase. The emotional cracks across the entire online community are sealed. Because the foundation of trust is now structurally stable, high-level agreements, collaborative covenants, and deep mutual support can actually stick. Active empathy is not a soft skill. It is the load-bearing infrastructure that makes all other online community building possible. We must stop treating written human connection as a warm-up step before the real work begins. The bridge is the real stuff. If you ignore this phase, any online space you build, no matter how many features it has, no matter how many templates you create, no matter how clean your guidelines are, will simply be a shiny shell built on top of quicksand. It takes immense courage, deep patience, and a genuine daily commitment to slow down, step off the pedestal of moderator expertise, and embrace the humble role of a companion. But when you build this bridge, right, you transform a flat, cold list of usernames and typed text into a living, breathing, and deeply trusting community. That is where real, lasting transformation begins. From lonely to join, let your love